Today's video is in partnership with BetterHelp. The One Ring. Within the Lord of the Rings saga, the moment we are looking at today arises when Gandalf suggests to Frodo that forcibly taking the One Ring from him would break his mind. This is a really intriguing concept from the book, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
Build me a home worthy of Mordor.
Remember everyone, if you find this video helpful, informative, or entertaining today, please remember to hit that subscribe button below. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on any of our latest videos, and you'll be supporting us to continue creating great content like this.
I am not trying to rob you. I'm trying to help you.
This all starts in the Shadow of the Past chapter. Gandalf talks to Frodo about how Bilbo first claimed the One Ring and the power it quickly had over him. Gandalf explains how, "I could not take it from him without doing greater harm, and I had no right to do so anyway." And then 12 pages later in the same chapter, Gandalf tells Frodo after seeing how it was already clawing its influence onto him, "And I could not make you except by force, which would break your mind." Before delving into the potential repercussions of Gandalf forcibly taking the One Ring from Frodo, it is imperative to understand the complexities surrounding the ring. This is not a mere trinket, it is a device steeped in dark magic. Gandalf, possessing more of a deep understanding than most of such artifacts, perceives aspects of the ring's influence that might elude the comprehension of the likes of hobbits or men. This is evident when he arrives at Rivendell and probes Frodo's thoughts during the latter's slumber to gather insights about the events leading up to that moment. Although we must admit Gandalf does apologise for this intrusion, as it is seen as quite improper. Wrestling it away could be devastating though, considering the immense psychological attachment one could form with the ring. Recall Gandalf's painstaking efforts with Bilbo, employing logic and enchantment to persuade him to part with the ring. Throughout their conversation, Gandalf's eyes occasionally gleam, a detail that Tolkien really does draw our attention to. This phenomenon bears similarities to when Gandalf has his actions at Meduseld, the Golden Hall in Edoras, when he liberates Theoden King from Saruman's influence. In both scenarios, even when dealing with resolute individuals, Gandalf masterfully combines empathy and the mystical properties of his voice to attain his objective. But back to Bilbo, recalling the intense confrontation with him and Gandalf highlights the profound influence of the ring. In that heated moment, Bilbo, seemingly consumed by the ring's power, very nearly draws his sword against Gandalf, one of his oldest and most loyal friends. The incident paints a vivid image of Bilbo, a man teetering on the edge of emotional collapse. Gandalf, aware of the delicate state Bilbo is in, approaches this situation then with caution. As he later confides in Frodo, forcibly taking the ring might have left Bilbo so devastated that he couldn't have even been able to journey to Rivendell on his own. Before we carry on with today's video, there is something that I want to talk about, and that is mental health. You know, I know others who have faced challenges in their lives that sometimes they just find them all a little bit overwhelming. But reaching out and speaking to a professional therapist makes a world of difference. And that's why today I'm in a paid partnership with BetterHelp, and I want to share this message with you. BetterHelp is an incredible platform that connects you with a qualified therapist who's trained to listen and offer valuable advice. I know how tough it can be to find the right therapist near you, or how some of you might feel uncomfortable with those face-to-face interactions, and that is where BetterHelp shines. You can have therapy sessions via phone calls, video chats, or even just messaging. It's about what makes you feel comfortable. To get started, all you gotta do is complete a questionnaire. They assess your needs and match you with a therapist, typically within 48 hours. And you know what's great? If you feel that maybe the therapist they've matched you with isn't right for you, which of course can happen, you can switch to another one with no extra cost at all. Think about it. We put so much effort into our physical health, hitting the gym, going for a run, doing anything like that. But what about the mental health side? Over 4 million people have turned to BetterHelp to nourish their minds. So if there's something that's getting in the way of your happiness or your goals, maybe it's time to give therapy a try. If you are considering therapy, please take this look at BetterHelp. Click the link in the description below or visit betterhelp.com/thebroken-sword. Not only does it support this channel when you use that link, but you'll get 10% off your first month too. Remember, taking the first step to seek help is a sign of strength that really someone like Gandalf would encourage. So please do consider it. But now, let's carry on with today's video. J.R.R. Tolkien's works often revolve around the moral choices of characters when confronted with great power. The One Ring itself, a symbol of unbridled power and seduction, serves as a touchstone for these ethical dilemmas. To forcibly take the ring from someone is not merely a physical act, but also a deeply moral violation. It would strip the bearer of their agency, disregarding the complex bond and internal struggles they experience with the ring's pull. Gandalf's decision to refrain from taking the ring from Frodo by force can be viewed as an embodiment of one of Tolkien's recurring themes, the respect for individual free will and the peril of domination. By recognizing the sanctity of Frodo's relationship with the ring, regardless of how destructive it might be, Gandalf is adhering to a higher moral standing. This theme is also evident in other aspects of the narrative, such as the reluctance of the wise to use the ring for their purposes, fearing its corrupting influence. In the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien, the author touches upon the theme of domination and moral choice. He writes, "The story is cast in terms of a good side and a bad side, beauty against ruthless ugliness, tyranny against kingship, moderated freedom with consent against compulsion that has long lost any object save mere power." This quote shows Tolkien's aversion to unbridled power and domination. Gandalf's refusal to employ force mirrors his way of thinking, emphasizing the significance of moral agency even in the face of world-altering power. A valuable resource in understanding the intricacies of such interactions are, again, the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien, those ones that were curated and published in 1981 by his son Christopher. One particular letter that we will look at quite deeply today was penned in September of 1963 and addressed to a Mrs. Eileen Alger. Here, Tolkien responds to a comment about Frodo's failure to relinquish the ring at the cracks of doom. This topic is also one that really could be dived into far more deeper in a future video, and it is one I'd love to do, so just drop me a like on the video and a comment of Frodo's failure down below if you would like to see that made. But anyway, within this letter lies a trove of insights regarding the One Ring and its influence on the members of the Fellowship. Particularly striking is Tolkien's commentary on Frodo's inability to part with it. Frodo undertook his quest out of love, to save the world he knew from disaster at his own expense if he could, and also in complete humility, acknowledging that he was wholly inadequate to the task. His real contract was only to do what he could, to try to find a way, and to go as far on the road as his strength of mind and body allowed. He did that. I do not myself see that the breaking of his mind and will under demonic pressure after torment was any more a moral failure than the breaking of his body would have been, say, by being strangled by Gollum or crushed by a falling rock. That appears to have been the judgment of Gandalf and Aragorn, and of all who learned the full story of his journey. Certainly, nothing would be concealed by Frodo, but what Frodo himself felt about the events is quite another matter.
It's been 4 years to the day since Weathertop sat. It's never really healed.
It is interesting to see how Tolkien himself does not see it as a moral failure. And then, if we carry on in the next passage, we understand how much damage Frodo took in his role as ring bearer, and how he feels about his failings, and the effects which linger on, disappointment despite ultimate success, those invisible scars which war inflict on the soul of a person who does go to war. He appears at first to have no sense of guilt. He was restored to sanity and peace. But then he thought that he had given his life in sacrifice. He expected to die very soon. But he did not, and one could observe the disquiet growing in him. Arwen was first to observe the signs, and gave him her jewel for comfort, and thought of a way of healing him. Slowly he fades out of the picture, saying and doing less and less. I think it is clear on reflection to an attentive reader that when his dark times came upon him, and he was conscious of being wounded by knife sting and tooth and a long burden, it was not only nightmare memories of past horrors that afflicted him, but also unreasoning self-reproach. He saw himself and all that he'd done as a broken failure. Tolkien goes on to clarify what Frodo means, what such thoughts were, and where they may have came from. He explains how there were two primary temptations to internal conflicts Frodo grappled with. One, a lingering sense of pride, which manifested as a desire for recognition and to return as a hero rather than simply serving as an instrument of good. And two, a more profound struggle where, despite the ring's destruction, Frodo still felt attached to it. He hadn't voluntarily cast it away, the part of him regretted its loss and continued to yearn for it. In essence, he emphasizes how different the complex nature of Frodo's internal battle and the nuanced relationship he had with the ring really were. When it comes down to it, in the moment of realization that it is over, that the dominion of mind, body and spirit which the ring held over him had passed, and he mourns its passing. He says, "It is gone forever, and now all is dark and empty." Again, from that same letter we learn how Tolkien understands the ring and the way it acts on people it intends to ensnare and enslave, as he says. It was part of the essential deceit of the ring to fill minds with imaginations of supreme power, but this the great had well considered and had rejected, as is seen in Elrond's words at the council. Galadriel's rejection of the temptation was founded upon previous thought and resolve. In any case, Elrond or Galadriel would have proceeded in the policy now adopted by Sauron. They would have built an empire with great and absolutely subservient generals and armies and engines of war, until they could challenge Sauron and destroy him by force. Confrontation of Sauron alone, unaided, self to self was not contemplated. One can imagine the scene in which Gandalf, say, was placed in such a position. It would be a delicate balance. On one side, the true allegiance of the ring to Sauron, on the other, superior strength because Sauron was not actually in possession, and perhaps also because he was weakened by long corruption and expenditure of will in dominating inferiors. If Gandalf proved the victor, the result would have been for Sauron the same as the destruction of the ring. For him, it would have been destroyed, taken from him forever. But the ring and all its works would have endured. It would have been the master in the end. The One Ring's hold is akin to a potent addiction. It seduces its bearers with promises of grandeur, only to plunge them into profound despair. As Frodo laments, all is dark and empty, suggesting we might need to reevaluate the depths of the ring's grip on him by the time he must relinquish it. Tolkien underscores the lingering wounds left by the ring, quoting Gandalf, "Alas, there are some wounds that cannot be wholly cured." It is evident that the ring ensnares Frodo in a mental rather than physical prison. This different kind of entrapment may explain why Gandalf couldn't exert the same subtle influence on Frodo as he did on Bilbo. Recall again the tense standoff when Bilbo, under the ring's magic, goes to draw his sword against Gandalf, his closest ally. That confrontation offers a glimpse into the subtle, almost invisible magic Gandalf uses, attempting to gently unravel the ring's deep-seated hold on Bilbo's soul. Using force might inflict irrevocable mental trauma, which Gandalf is, obviously, keen to avoid. If we take this time now, though, to look at that final moment of truth, when the ring finally conquers the will of Frodo Baggins once and for all. A wild light came into Frodo's eyes. "Stand away, don't touch me," he cried. "It is mine, I say, be off." His hand strayed to his sword hilt, but then quickly his voice changed. No, Sam," he said sadly. "But you must understand, it is my burden and no one else can bear it. It is too late now, Sam dear. You can't help me in that way again. I am almost in its power now. I could not give it up, and if you tried to take it, I should go mad." Professor Tolkien's narrative exhibits meticulous care, revisiting a poignant concern from Chapter 2, The Shadow of the Past, when Frodo first receives the ring. The story culminates in Frodo's eventual breaking, albeit not at Gandalf's hands. The ring, with its insidious influence, weaves intricate webs within the psyche of its bearer, initiating a process of mental subjugation from the moment it starts interacting with Frodo. To the ring, Frodo becomes an involuntary accomplice in its designs. It successfully dominates Frodo at a crucial juncture, and had it not been for Gollum, who retained his obsession and emotional chains even after years without the ring, events might have unfolded differently. Frodo Baggins gave his all, journeying to the furthest reaches that his hobbit heart and feet could endure. When we quickly reflect on Gollum with this all too, we see in him a chilling mirror image of Frodo's potential fate, a stark reminder of the internal battles waged and the dire outcomes if one were to yield to the ring's temptations. Once Gollum had not been all that different from Frodo. However, his extended possession of the ring altered him to such an extent that he grew to despise the sun's light, and his relentless yearning drove him to dwell in the shadows and later to stalk the Fellowship. His obsession reached its zenith at Mount Doom, where he, consumed by his desires, met his doom along with the very object of his infatuation. It paints a heart-wrenching picture of the overpowering nature of addiction, which leaves marks not just on the body, but also gnaws away at the soul. In the face of Gollum's end, Frodo's ability to ward off the ring's seductive pull stands out even more distinctly. With each step on his hazardous voyage, the ring's enticements intensified, and the looming threat of Gollum's eventual fate shadowed him. Yet, Frodo, an unassuming hobbit by all accounts, bore its burden longer than most could have anticipated. This speaks volumes of the might of his spirit and his unwavering resolve. When juxtaposed with other iconic figures from Middle-earth, his commendable resilience is further magnified. Frodo's susceptibilities in no way lessen our admiration for him. Tolkien's musing on how even Gandalf, arguably the most wise and formidable being of his era, might have wavered under the ring's burden too, makes it all the more clearer. Casting blame upon our fearless hobbit seems almost unthinkable. Tolkien's profound message underscores the dire consequences of unchecked ambition and greed. Beyond its superficial allure, the Ring of Power is a malevolent shackle, insidiously embedding itself within its bearer's psyche. Separating the ring from its possessor becomes as intricate as extracting gum from hair. If Gandalf were to employ brute force, the repercussions could be disastrous. The narrative repeatedly illustrates that raw power is distinct from true strength, just as cleverness differs from wisdom. A central theme woven through the ring's journey shows that the journey's means are as vital as its end. Tolkien concludes his letter emphasizing this very sentiment. If Gandalf proved the victor, the result would have been for Sauron the same as the destruction of the ring. For him it would have been destroyed, taken from him forever. But the ring and all its works would have endured. It would have been the master in the end. Gandalf as Ring Lord would have been far worse than Sauron. He would have remained righteous, but self-righteous. He would have continued to rule and order things for good, and the benefit of his subject according to his wisdom, which was and would have remained great. Gandalf's caution to Frodo about the dire consequence of forcibly taking the ring sheds light on the ring's formidable power and how it insidiously ensnares its bearer. It's an allegory of the profound harm that can ensue from abrupt intervention, akin to hastily removing an arrow and worsening the wound. Crucially, the letter emphasizes that vanquishing Sauron requires more than just adopting his methods. True conquest over malice, fear, and hatred comes through love, courage, and hope. This profound wisdom is one of the myriad of insights Tolkien bequeaths to us, enhancing our understanding and enriching our lives.
The ring is yours now. Put it somewhere out of sight.
So there we have it. Tolkien's narrative of Gandalf and Frodo's relationship in the context of the One Ring's immense power is a study in restraint, understanding, and the profound complexities of the human spirit. Gandalf's wisdom prevented him from forcibly taking the ring, recognizing that such an act could shatter Frodo's mind. Instead, the Hobbit's internal resilience and quiet courage carried the weight of Middle-earth's fate. With Gollum as a constant, grim reflection of the potential corruption, the story underscores the danger of unchecked ambition. In Gandalf's prudence and Frodo's sacrifice, Tolkien illustrates that true victory lies not in domination, but in compassion, understanding, and the strength of spirit. With that now though, it is time for my question of the day, which is, how do you think things would have gone if Gandalf had taken the One Ring? How would have this affected everything that happened afterwards? How would this have turned Gandalf? Let me know all of your thoughts and theories on this in the comment section down below. And now to shout out our patrons. You guys are continuing to support our short film The Guard. We are making good progress and I cannot thank you all enough. We of course have the Fire Demon tier member of Nashith and the Wizard Staff tier members of Andrew and Hunter. So finally, if you've managed to reach the end of this video today and you really enjoyed what you've seen, then please do consider hitting that subscribe button and getting that bell icon with all notifications ticked so that you will know when all future uploads go up. And so, thank you for spending just some of your time with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.